Everybody, Andy Mooseman here, down on the beach. And what am I going to talk about today? Well, if I can just show you my t-shirt, you might get some idea. You might see that big Apple logo on there. Yes, it's the Beatles. Yes, I know the Beatles are everywhere at the moment. The 40th anniversary of Abbey Road coming out, the reissues of their CDs, remastered CDs, the Rock Band video game, computer game, whatever. And I saw a journalist the other day saying, I'm going to write a piece for my paper, a blog or an article about the Beatles. What is there to write about nowadays that's original, that hasn't been said already? My answer to that would be the fact that you're still talking about them, or that we're still talking about them 40 years after that last album, 40 years after they broke up, says all that you need to know really. They still are, I think, the most influential band on the planet, still the biggest band on the planet. Yes, we've had other people that came before them. Elvis changed the way that music was viewed, and without Elvis you wouldn't have had the Beatles, there's no doubt about that. But without the Beatles we wouldn't have had so much. They were one of the first bands, probably the first band really on a worldwide scale, to write their own songs, to more or less produce their own songs as well, release albums as they wanted with all original material. After a while, yes, they started off with cover versions like everybody else did, but then realised that they could write their own songs, possibly make money out of it, and when they did that, they changed everything. Yes, they were helped by the right four people being in the right place at the right time. They had a great producer in George Martin who helped them out with that, there's no doubt about that. Without him, they possibly wouldn't have been quite the same. Certainly not on record, the songs may have been the same, but their influence is still here. I'm out there, I was lucky enough, I was 11 years old when they split up, so I do vaguely remember them. I can remember hearing their music back in the 60s, and I bought their music on vinyl, I bought their music on CD, and now I'm rebuying that music once again on remastered CD and finding new things in it. One of the great things about the Beatles, they've really only existed as the Beatles in recorded music for about 7 years, and in that time they released all of those albums. They changed the face of pop music, they changed the face of rock music, they changed the face of music since. But any sphere of music that's around now owes something, somewhere along the line, to the Beatles. Even sort of rap music and things like that will go back in some ways to using the words and the way that they weave lyrics and music and melodies and harmonies and choruses and all those type of things that come in to make up a song. Everything goes back to them. And I just think that's amazing. 40 years afterwards they produced such a great amount of work, and they change so much. We see bands now who take 10, 15, 20 years to change their music and to have that broad spread. The Beatles did all of that in 7 years. That is pretty amazing. Yes, it was an interesting time, the 60s, not that I remember that much about it, but it was a time of change, but that was partly through them. They brought about some of that change themselves. So thinking about it now, if you're thinking about, well, why are we still talking about them, that's the reason. Their influence is still there. They're still as important now as they ever were. Yes, they're a bit of a money-making machine. Yes, we can argue that they've taken 40 years to reissue these CDs in the way that maybe they should have been brought out 20 years ago. But that's the nature of the beast, I suppose, with their difficulties. And when you talk about the Beatles, you don't really think about the scandal type of thing. Yes, you think about John Lennon's death. That's not usually mentioned with the Beatles, because obviously that happened 10 years after the Beatles are split up. We still concentrate on the music. We still concentrate on the personalities and the way that those personalities wove together. But it was that weaving together, that mixture, that brought us that great canon of music that we've still got now, that we can still listen to, still appreciate, and listening to the new CDs, still find things that are different, still find things of interest, something that's new and vibrant that still comes out 40 years from now. How many more bands, how many other bands in the history of popular music to come or in the past can say that? 40 years after your last record, 40 years after you split up, it's still as important as the day you were when you did split up. There you go. That's my point on that. The Beatles, they're here to stay, you know. Thanks for your time. I shall speak to you again soon. Goodbye.